that an Evan original?
I made that up right now.
Oh, really? Okay. Yeah, you're not talented at all. Jeez Louise.
Hello, and welcome to Oh for the Love of Art, where, well, do you like art? Do you like talking about art? Join us. We'd love to have you. Evan
Bergeron.
Bergeron.
That's soft G. Bergeron.
But
Right.
well, the way you said it, yeah, it was very French.
Yeah. All right. I'm from Louisiana.
Okay.
Asian country.
Nice.
My name's Evan, and I am primarily a musician. The context within my creativity is specifically at a church. I'm the worship minister at a local church in Jackson, Mississippi, where I pick songs for our Sunday worship gathering and lead our band, our weekly instrumentalists and vocalists. But my degree is in piano performance from Mississippi College. I grew up in a musical family. My mom plays, she's a piano teacher and plays piano, so I took lessons from her when I was really young. My dad sings, play the trombone. I also grew up playing brass, and so me and two of my brothers, me and my middle brother played trumpet. My youngest brother played French horn, even played at church a little bit. Played bass in high school, and was in a talented music program in high school where I learned different types of music, and we would do like basically a year review. Like I learned what West Side Story was and the Beatles and Billy Joel and
Fun.
yeah. And then went to school for piano performance. And that's my home, I would say, is piano. Grew vocally at college and after college, and then learned acoustic guitar. Though I mean I'm not getting calls to go play with people, but I can play functionally for what I need to do on acoustic guitar. Or that not functional.
Mainly.
No, I learned that like 4 years ago.
Okay.
Piano is my home. Yeah.
Nice.
So yeah.
All right. So home was Louisiana, you said?
Yeah, it's right outside of Baton Rouge in a small town called Walker.
Nice. Okay.
Lots of my family, really on both sides, is musical.
Hmm.
My dad, like my grandpa plays the accordion. My grandma plays the piano, like Southern Baptist church pianist and in the choir. My dad's brother was a worship leader, has a degree in vocal performance. My mom's sister's husband was a worship leader at a big church, plays piano, and he's really one of my main influences early on of really seeing someone do music and be like, I want to do that.
Yeah.
Like his ability to sit down at a piano and just riff and play. And he would write songs. And
Yeah.
a lot of my early context was very classical driven or written out music. And I can read and I appreciate that. But what really intrigued me and sparked my creative interest was seeing someone with no music just play and or hear a song, hear a Chicago song and learn the riff. My dad liked Chicago, so I listened to them growing up, and Toto and Michael Jackson.
Oh yeah.
80s music is definitely my kind of sweet spot of what I like to listen to and feel excited about on my own personal listening.
I think horn is awesome.
Yeah,
Like, can we incorporate that in the worship more?
maybe so. I'll have to find the right context. Rusty, I do have my trumpet at home.
How about that?
In my music room. But yeah, it's so funny. What were you saying when that?
No, so you have your
Oh yeah,
siblings are.
yes, we all played brass, and then we all took piano until we graduated.
So wait a minute, why did you all play brass? Like that's
That's just what we wanted to do. That's what was intriguing. And I guess my dad played trombone, so that
so you grew up with your mom teaching piano. So did that make you like at first like kind of turn you off? Like you're like, gosh, no, mom.
I don't know. I also kind of just like this is what we do. So she taught each of us for like a year
Yeah.
when we were like 6, and then we all actually we took lessons from someone else, like from 7 on, so she could be mom and not mom and teacher, which I am glad for. Like it was the best thing for me. But I mean, her studio was at our house, so every day after school from 3 to 7, kids were at our house taking piano lessons. So we were out in the yard playing.
That's my sister teaches. Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, my youngest brother has continued on and plays guitar and sings, and he's a worship leader. And my middle brother, it's funny, we can like send music back and forth, and like our tastes are like, I'm like, for not being a musician, you're very much a musician, like, which he is, but he's a landscape architecture, so he still has an artistic mind and has a lot of training in music. And so he'll send me some really niche things and be like, that's hilarious that you get that. You can relate to me in that way. So yeah.
So wait, he's an architect?
Landscape architect.
Wow.
Yeah. So he works for a firm in Lake Tahoe, and
think that's artistic. Yeah.
yeah, that's right. He's very artistic, very, very detailed.
So are you the oldest, the middle? No, you're
Oldest.
And you mind giving your age or the approximate, or are you at 26 or 26?
Okay. Just so the audience that I know, because my heart for this is also kind of just to talk about art, really. But a lot of, I think my heart is like to reach the younger artists or the ones who are like, how do I make this happen? Or I've talked about this a lot on other episodes, but everything, especially in social media these days, we tend to compare ourselves to other people. But I think that, I don't know if it's just me. I know it's not just me, but but I don't know if I have it stronger than maybe most, how I would compare myself a lot to other people, but be looking for like, okay, so how should I do it? Like, we're looking for rules. We're looking for, okay, how do I reach that? Oh, I think that movie star's awesome. How do I get there? Or I think I need to be just like them.
Yeah.
Well, and I think the reality is not that. Well, so I want to help hopefully those younger artists that are maybe looking for that. Yeah. To maybe show them a little bit, but more than that, to show them, hey, everyone's crazy different. We reach these, some of us reach these points that look like that's great, but we got to it through crazy means of like you would never imagine. So I want to encourage them in that way with this. So we dove into a little bit your background, your early years. Do you have an artist eye for some other medium too? Like not just music? Were you ever into it growing up?
Growing up, no. I really only, it's funny, I would say only in the last like year and a half have I really like started letting myself think of myself as a creative. Like that's definitely part of my journey.
What did you think of yourself as before?
A hard worker and who can like problem solve. I really, I mean, I wrote this down in my notes too to talk about, is like one of my closest friends is a phenomenal songwriter and has recorded an album, did it in college and has played shows and even works another job now. But I was like, well, I'm not him. I can't write like that. I'm not that creative and talented. So I'm not a creative. I'm just a musician. I'm not an artist.
Yeah.
And really feeling limited by that. And I think only in the past year and a half, 2 years have I begun to see, okay, well, no, maybe your creativity is just in a different way, or like exactly like you're saying, we get to where we want to go through different means and no path is exactly the same. And I think specifically in my context, I view myself more as like an arranger, band leader, and even storyteller, like in the context of like a worship gathering. Like the thing that I think about as my creative element is kind of telling the story through songs and through different elements of a service. Like, yes, there takes musical excellence to like figure out what key and how do we do this arrangement, how we play it like this. And I'm coaching other musicians, but I really think lately, at least, and really, I guess in my work context, my creativity is I'm trying to compel the congregation to see the story of the gospel in a service. And so my creative work is piecing together different parts of scripture or prayers or invitations or songs or even how we do a song. Like if we're really trying to praise God or really emphasize a wonderful aspect of him, what if we did a song we've done before, but just like in a key that's a half step higher, like, or with a different arrangement or with a full band instead of just a piano and acoustic guitar and cajon or something.
So I think of that as almost like a producer.
Definitely, I see myself more as a producer than a musical artist, because I don't feel like I'm necessarily coming up with things out of thin air. Now I did really last year. I wrote more music than I ever have before, and that was really really fun for me. And I still want to do something with that. Like I would love to write it out. Like I mean, I have enough songs to have an album. I just like haven't pursued getting them recorded and all that. And um, so there is that side of me that I definitely want to stretch in and to grow in. But to answer your original question, no, I didn't when I was younger see really any interest in creativity because I thought like creative people were like a whole other category, and I was just like
You were learning the music, and instrument is almost like a tool. Like you were,
exactly. It's very
like you said, it was just what.
really very utilitarian, very just like my yeah. I could ramble, but I won't.
No, I know that because that's what you grew up with. You had music all around you, so to you, it was just
Yeah,
part of life. It's just what you guys did,
yeah,
and
yeah.
yeah, so that's what you were working at.
Yeah, and though I was in a musical context, I wouldn't necessarily say I was in a super creative context. It's that you can tell the difference between there. Like, I don't think it was stifled, but like I was not really in spaces or my lessons or ensembles weren't necessarily like teaching creativity. It was learning a skill, which that is so important to creativity. Like you have to have a skill in which to do something.
Yeah,
Like
you have to learn the tools.
exactly. And so like I'm so grateful for all my experiences as a young kid. And like you could even argue like you have to do that before you
Yeah.
I do think it's more simultaneous than maybe my
No, I totally get what you mean because it's not like yeah, it's not like you're sitting down at the piano and composing a concerto.
sure
You're sitting down and
playing scales.
you're playing scales. You're trying to sight read and get this and memorize this so that you can eventually play it in a recital that your teacher has going on. But those are the building blocks. Like I feel like I am so thankful for that basis because now, even though I'm not a musician by my medium of choice per se, it's definitely a part of main music. I mean, whatever. Everybody likes music, but I'm just saying, like, it's definitely a part of my creativity. I think, and who I am, and it is what speaks to me. That's how I get inspired a lot of the times is when I'm in the studio and painting. I'm listening to music that I love, usually Thomas Newman. But yes,
Yeah. Wow. Yeah, I think no, I love that. And I think that's funny, like you're inspired by music. I feel like I have grown more inspired by like art, specifically like painting, because one of my college roommates is an artist, is a painter. And so we talk about creativity a lot. And then photography recently has been a really inspiring medium for me. My brother has a film camera and has a wonderful eye, really for landscape. But I think because music is so aural, like AURAL, like ear, obviously it has a visual component, but like it's an ear form of art, hearing, auditory. I think for me, having a visual component of beauty and a work, I think even has helped me to relate to the auditory side of things. Like I found myself when I'm teaching, volunteers at our church, really specifically piano, because that's my home instrument. I found myself using like color or a composition of a painting to explain some concept musically because I think we and people have maybe more of a concept for visual things because most of the world is visual.
right.
Not that everybody can be a great painter, but like no, and I think there's just more. We use our eyes, I think, in general more than our ears in a really fine tune setting, and so I have like found some help both personally and in a teaching context in explaining, you know, how painting a landscape is like crafting a song and like you've got to have the base layer of your blues or your I don't actually know how to paint, so I may be talking on my butt here, but like all these parts are building blocks that until, the last 10% of the painting, it doesn't look like anything, but then all of a sudden you see the landscape. But in the same way of music, like you've all of the chord structure and the harmonic structure is built on scales that are your foundation and your color palette, if you will.
Mhm.
And even as simple as like I've been explaining, like when I to a new beginner like piano student that I'm working with, like what's a key or what's a key signature? Like, well, that's your color palette. Like those are the notes that are allowed. Like, okay, yeah, maybe in a
Mm.
landscape painting, a purple bird is going to really stick out. And so you probably won't see that unless the artist really wants to bring attention to that. In the same way, your color palette for the key of G major is all these notes. And so if you play a note that's not in there, like C sharp, for example, that's going to be your purple bird out of nowhere. And using the right context, that could be really, really beautiful and really stark, but used kind of not skillfully, that's just going to be super weird and take you out of the moment. And so I've recently been trying to grow in my understanding of visual art to kind of give some words and life to auditory forms of music as well. So that's been fun.
Teaching, have you taught for a while?
I really, it's fun.
Or like here and there?
Yeah, here and there, really out of necessity. And yeah, even I wouldn't necessarily consider myself a teacher until recently. And I really enjoyed that in the context of church where we have a rotation of people who play piano on a Sunday or Wednesday service. Even though that's my home thing, I've really played a whole lot less than I ever have before because I see my roles shifting as more of a upfront, either vocalist or leader, or even just communicator.
Yeah.
And the band, when I play piano, I can't really do a whole lot of other things. And so, but I really value skill in that specific, in every instrument, but really in that one because that's the one that I have the most skill in. And so I'm really just trying as much as I can to like give anything I've learned to.
Makes more sense because I've noticed that you use piano a lot as like our basis when we play. I'm on the worship team too for our listeners. I bang on my little drum as my wife and I say. I do percussion, but no, I've noticed that we use piano a lot, like as the basis, as the melodic line and what.
Yeah, that's just 'cause that's my go-to.
Yeah. And my experience with worship teams, I've been on a few, has been that the leader is usually a guitar player and sings and whatnot. So that made perfect sense that you're up there on the guitar. I guess that's why I assumed that was your main thing. But I think it's interesting that you say that you're talking about teaching because that in and of itself, that's a whole nother aspect. That's a whole, there's people that do, there's people that teach. Of course, there's that funny saying, those that can't do, teach.
Right.
And then School of Rock, and then he goes further on those that can't teach Jim. School of Rock.
Great role by it.
But no, teaching though, that's very interesting how you're talking about you're a musician, but you fall back and you're inspired by visual art and you use that to explain what you mean. Trying to think like,
I think because most people, sorry to interject, I think because the most people that I am teaching aren't seasoned musicians. And I wouldn't say that I'm a super seasoned musician. I know kind of
no, you've just grown up with it your whole life. Yeah, no.
well, yeah, okay, fair enough. But like, I think it's just kind of out of necessity to like, how do I make this make sense to you? Well, everyone's seen a painting, like, and so if I can't talk in musical terms, what are the terms that I can talk in?
Yeah.
And so that has been helpful. So yeah. So
I think we've touched on this a little bit. This is kind of a core of what I want to get at that too a lot. But well, first of all, with music, I feel like it's hard because you're leading a worship team. So you're kind of like a director, you're a producer, but you're also a musician. So I forget, you said that you consider your main thing to be in this production role. Do you consider your main artistic output right now to be in making music? Are you mainly just a performer in your mind right now? What aspect would you say is your primary one? And which one do you actually enjoy the most, do you think? What would you like to be maybe doing?
yeah, no, it's an interesting question. I think my main, as in most frequent these days, like creative output would be again, to put it in more musical terms, the live show, so to speak, of this Sunday worship gathering that we have every single week. So for me, that's my content that I'm producing, so to speak. And yes, within that, there are like smaller things of content, as in like maybe I'm leading a song, and so that's my like, or I've done a different arrangement of a song, but I don't necessarily think of that as my I kind of think of that as just what I have to do to produce, if you will, this experience, though I don't love that word for church, like this product for people to engage in. However, I would say, and I love it, like, yeah, period. I really do.
Yeah.
And I feel good at it and able to do it well. Like I mentioned earlier, writing songs is another, I would say my second
Mhm.
creative outlet that I enjoy doing, feel most inspired by and equipped to do, but I'm really the output of that is just so much less because there's not immediate paycheck behind it. Um, and it's so much more isolating, at least in my current context. Like I'm not in a songwriter group or a regular space where that's expected or encouraged. Anytime I mention that to someone, like people are like, "Oh, you should totally write, and that's good. Like you would have great." And so, like, there is encouragement, sure, but I'm not like honestly. I think if I was in,
There's no back and forth.
yeah, there's no camaraderie. I'm not. I mean, I've got some friends that I can send stuff to, but there's not. And that's not anyone else's fault in that line of like I just haven't put myself in those spaces or really pursued that
Yeah.
yet. But I would like to, and I would say those two forms of creativity are different. Sure, they have some similarities, but they have their own, like writing, I feel like is much more crafting things from thin air and more trial and error as I have more of a template, though it's different. I try to vary it for the Sunday morning experience of the product that I'm producing. Yeah, I guess that's my answer actually.
I think writing music, that's crazy to me. Like that's one thing that I wish I could do, but I don't see how you guys do it. Like I don't, I couldn't just come because whenever like in my little bit, I know it's a muscle you have to flex, but in my little bit of just like trying to, just off the top of my head, like let's create a tune. Yeah. Like it's always something usually that I've heard before. Yeah. That I'm just repurposing or oh, wait a minute. That's AC/DC or that's something else.
Yeah.
So talk about that for a minute. When you write a song, I'm just interested personally, is it usually words that come to you that you feel to inspire and then the music follows the notes, or is it vice versa, or sometimes both, or a combination?
Yeah, a combination. I think more, I would say, I don't know, put a random number on it, 75% for me in the context that I have written has been words first. Quite frankly, out of my own personal story of life and healing and making sense of the world. And when I do that, whether from journaling or just going on a walk and thinking, an idea or a phrase or just what I've been thinking about is the what I bring then to music to put to it. Um, and have found for me personally that has been easier. Oh, an easier way to start writing music when I have what do I want to say instead of sitting down at the piano or guitar and playing and sometimes like I've written a song that way as well, but I think for me, I did not for a long time really understand how to formulate like creative thoughts and like to say something actually real. I would just think about music and what chords were cool and what like just kind of get lost in the infinite ability or not inability, infinite options of things you can play that I was like, I don't even, how do I narrow down to actually write a song? And so I think coming to the piano or the guitar with with an idea. Like, I was on a walk one time, and this idea of just, like this phrase, like, air traffic control came to mind, like and then I was like, "That's so random, what is that?" And so I just kinda chased it and, like, wrote down a bunch of ideas about planes and, like, airports and air traffic control And what came was like the course of this song. It's kind of silly, but like it made sense to me. It was a helpful exercise. Air traffic control says, please come down. We need to ground you and the plane. This idea of like, I was not in a healthy space personally. And this idea that like, we need to ground you or you're going to like crash and burn. And so making this analogy of like, then another line of the song says, I'm the pilot and the plane and I want to fly another day. Like I honestly need rest. I need to be grounded or the plane is going to crash and burn. And I really don't want that. And so
That's cool.
that kind of, that experience or analogy put words to a real reality that was living. And I was like, this seems silly, but I'm just going to chase it. Yeah, write about being an airplane. Like if I was an airplane, what would that experience be? Like talking about diving and rising and wings and fly through a storm. Like life has storms sometimes. Like that's maybe on the nose, but why not? And I also heard, I mean, I've heard this from several artists, but I think first time I heard it was Ed Sheeran on a podcast, and obviously world-renowned songwriter. He said like the idea of like, this kind of applies to any creative form, I think, but like you just have to turn the faucet on, for your friend's analogy, and like let all the bad water run out, and eventually the clean water will come. It's like when a faucet has, sat for a long time. All right. And just hearing so many artists that have said, I wrote 100 songs for this album and there's 8 songs on the album. Like that's daunting, but like you gotta start. And then another one of my favorite artists, Jacob Collier, is like my biggest inspiration, and I love his music so much. But he says, if you were to write a bad song, what would it sound like? Really with the intent to, and he's like, I use this when I'm really not feeling inspired or I'm in a rut. It just gives freedom and permission to start creating again. Like, if you're going to write a bad song, what would it sound like?
That's so good.
Which just like,
I love that.
well, I'll just write the bad one, and somewhere along the way, something's good is going to come.
That's so good.
Yeah. And I think that just, we get stuck in our own, again, comparison to other people or self-critiquing so much. Like, that I can't remember exactly how it goes, but the idea that like what is it? The idea like create in a free, safe, playful setting, and then edit ruthlessly. But like, don't create ruthlessly, or you're not gonna like. Don't start editing while you're creating. Like, and that takes a lot of discipline to let creative space be creative, and then editing and refining place be that. And sometimes those are very different experiences too. But for me to like just say, Evan, write the bad song, make it not rhyme, make it not make sense, instead of already telling yourself that it sucks when you just started, you'll never get anywhere.
Yeah.
You're never going to write a song if you don't write a song.
I hate that and I love that. Yes. Yeah. I've said this before too. Like getting out of your own head is probably the hardest thing I think for an artist. So I love that how he was like, oh, if you were to write a bad song, what would it sound like? Or in my case, if you were to do a bad pain, what would that look like? Yeah. That's so awesome to give yourself that permission. That, dude, just I've said it before too. The best piece of advice that I got was, dude, just paint, like just do it, and don't worry about that.
And I think too, you've got to get to a point where like, if no one ever sees this, are you still content to do it? Because if you're doing it for other people to see, that's not good motivation.
No.
And like, does it bring you joy just from the sheer act of doing it?
Absolutely.
If no one ever sees your art or hears your song, did it connect with you? Did it help you work through something? Did it bring you joy? Instead of already thinking about, well, what if someone else sees this? What are they going to think of me? What are they going to think of, what does this say about who I am, whether it's good or if it's bad? And like, that's so much harder to like actually detach yourself from what you create, because it is from us. And so when someone either hates it or loves it, or the worst, I think, is just indifferent and like doesn't even notice or care, like that does feel personally hurtful. But I think we'd have to get to a point in our self-confidence I would argue, and our confidence in who we are as human beings made in the image of God. And like, that is the most sure thing about us, is that God loves us, not that our art gives us value or that people love us because of what we do. And then when you get to that point, it really frees you to be creative, because it just feels like all of the chains, so to speak, or, the self-restricting things that you've put on yourself that no one else has put on you but yourself, like, are gone, and then you can actually just start and try. And then, as with anything, the more you do it, the more you get better.
Yeah.
And the more you find your voice and your style and what you bring to the world. Because I think people are most attracted to and drawn toward authenticity, like we talked about even before you started, like before you press record, like the most version of you can be is what people want to hear or see, or whatever medium. And so, you know,
Yeah, I'm 41 years old, and it's taken me until recently to really kind of get that. I think back to when I was growing up, when I was little. I started doing impressions when I was 7 years old, and people would always say, "Oh, you're so good. You should be in theater. You should do acting and blah blah blah." And I loved showbiz. I loved movies like everyone does, and I was like, "Yeah." Well, I mean, in my mind, I was like, "Of course. Who
yeah,
doesn't want to be an actor?" Eh, Not knowing that not everyone does want to be an actor. Yeah. But my thought was, "Oh yeah, that's nice of you to say it." Yeah, yeah, yeah. And I just kind of poo-pooed it.
yeah,
And I'm not saying I would have become a star or anything, but part of me wonders, like, what could have happened if I had just. I think so much of my life has been worried about, like, what should I be doing? What shouldn't I be doing? And translated that into art too. And even saying, okay, if I'm going to be an artist, and you're looking at it with almost like the end goal in sight, like, I want to be an artist. I want to do this. I want to be successful and sell my art at this level. What do I need to do to get there? And whatever, translate that to music or whatever for two. When just recently, I think I've started to realize, no, don't think that way. Just think about what makes you come alive with your art form, or what makes you come alive in general. I think that's true for life in general too, like especially in young people's lives when they're in college or they're trying to figure out what they're doing with their lives. At least for me, I was like, what should I be doing? What's going to help people? What's going to help humanity? I don't know. I was trying to be a good person. And that's not what you should ask. You shouldn't ask what people need. There's a quote, a famous quote, I think, and I got it from Wild at Heart, but I think John Eldridge and them got it from someone else, where it says, "Don't ask yourself what the world needs. Ask yourself what makes you come alive, because what the world needs is people that have come alive." And so it's exactly what you're saying.
yeah,
So you're not gonna be. You want to be a great artist. You're not gonna be a great artist unless you just let yourself be you. And John Cleese. You know who he is?
I don't know.
The John Cleese, am I saying his name right? Yeah. He's from Monty Python. Okay. He was one of those British comedians. He still is. He wrote a short book called Creativity. Very good read. I recommend it. I listened to it as a book on tape. But anyway, one of the major things that I always come back to, I think about, is he's like, artists need space to play.
Yeah,
And he's talking about physically as well as just spiritually or emotionally. Like, we need space to just, like you said, like, you have to do the bad stuff and the good stuff and just play. Just
yeah, near the sandbox.
do your artwork. Don't worry about anything. Then, yeah, there will be time for editing and for really honing that in. But I think especially once you've got the skills, once you've got the basis and the tools, like you do, like you spend all that time accruing those tools during your childhood, now's the time where you can play. And whatever that looks like, whether it's producing for church or singer-songwriter, having myself in the studio. And you just, yeah, that's the most important thing. I think, because right now too, I'm trying to market myself. I'm trying to figure out how to market myself on like Instagram and different things more. And it's easy to get caught up in what does the algorithm want right now? What do people want? Who do I need to be in order to, I need to sell my art. Yeah, I need to put food on the table. But what sells, like you said, authenticity. You really just need to find out what you are, what you're about. And then the selling, I think, will come. It might not always, but you know what I'm saying.
Yeah.
That kind of leads into, so we're talking about doing your passion, do what really makes you come alive. And I don't want to beat a dead horse, but have you, what makes you come alive? Like, is it just an aspect of what you do now? Is it the whole thing? Is there something else that you would really, that God is kind of talking to you about these days that you would really love to explore more? Or not really? Have you, I don't know what I'm
Yeah.
you know.
I think what makes me come alive, or what I've noticed recently, is I think even more than like maybe the songwriting, which maybe in a different season I would say that was my answer. But right now, and what I feel like I keep coming back to, and what wakes me up when I feel creatively tired, or what inspires me when I feel not inspired, is bringing people together to put something that none of us can do. Again, which is a very producer director type thing to say, I think. Like I think I have the ability to visualize an end product and then bring along the right people and things to get there. And I think that inspires me because it lets people flourish at the thing that they're really good at, and it makes a product or something that's better than any one of us, or maybe not better, but just different. Like,
Yeah.
it couldn't happen if unless we were all there. And I don't know, I just feel that having connections with many different musicians, and you know, I wouldn't say I'm a master at one instrument, but I'm can hold my own with several different things, so I know enough to talk the language to guitar players and to bass players, because I played a couple years in high school. I can definitely talk the language to piano players. I can sing enough and know harmony to be able to talk to vocalists. And again, one thing that I've had to learn over the past couple years is like how to speak drum, like how to, which that's probably the least skilled that I am, but how to convey what I want rhythmically in a song setting to the drummer. And so if I can do that well, then we play this song or produce this sound that didn't exist before. Um, and that's just so fun to me every time, because I didn't, I'm not playing the drums, I'm not playing the guitar, I'm not playing the bass, but I am leading and telling you where to go, and where to, like, I'm
Orchestrating.
I'm orchestrating. Yeah. And what's funny too is like that interests me even as a kid, and I didn't even realize it. Like I remember talking to my dad one time about, like, in high school, like, what do I want to do? And I remember saying, like, I actually thought about this a couple weeks ago, like, I just kind of see myself being an arranger. Like, I like the idea of getting different people, and yeah, orchestrating many elements together. Like, I just feel that is and I love being a part of that too. I love sitting at the piano or playing instrument too. But I feel like maybe I have the skill set, or the gift, or the creative mind to do the orchestrating part that sometimes other people don't have. And so
Did you always have that? Or do you think that's a skill that you kind of learned and that you found out, oh, hey, I'm kind of good at that?
I think kind of learned and found out, honestly, from being involved in so many different types of music settings early on. I mean, like, by 11th grade, I could play the trumpet, the bass, and the piano, and could sing. And even some of my friends who were musical could only maybe do one or two of those. And though I was not, like, I'm not trying to sell myself short, but, like, I was not great at any of them, but I at least could hold my own. And so already I can, and when I'm in a setting where there's someone, struggling on bass, I can at least say, "Hey, try this," and so that just has served itself And so there's like the nurture part of it, and maybe the nature part is I think I do tend to be a more analytical personality, or I lean into that strength and like breaking down why does this work, what what makes this go, and in a musical setting, it's like, well, okay, well, why does AC/DC rock so hard? Well, it's because the drum beat is, and then the electric guitar does this. That's like, or a really eye catching or ear catching rhythm or pattern, and the tone is really like cranked overdrive to make it just really gritty and like punch you in the face. Like, not to break things down so objectively that they lose their shimmer. Like, there still is magic of music that it has an intangible, I think, indescribable quality to it. But just like with anything, there are building blocks to everything. And so if you can learn the building blocks, then you can build stuff.
I guess you've already spoken to it. I was thinking about how when I'm in the studio, I'm kind of in the zone. I'm on a canvas. I'm listening to Thomas Newman or whoever, um, and having a good soundtrack, like just like it speaks to my soul more than anything else. Like, yeah, it's the painting. Like, God has made me for painting somewhat. Like, I'm not saying that's my only thing that I can do, but that's my thing now. But along with that music, like, okay, to me, music, so there's so many different art forms, right? And they're all great. They all have their place. But I feel like, okay, so like filmmaking, I was into filmmaking for a while. Filmmaking, I think, delves into so many different things: music, visual, you got dance choreography, you've got everything, the practical lighting, the camera work, photography, everything. It's all working together to tell a story, and it's really quite blatant in a way. Like it's definitely trying to manipulate someone's emotions and lead them in through the story, right? But that aside, like just the normal quote unquote art forms, music, painting, dance, theater, of all of them, I feel like music has like a direct line to our hearts and our souls more than maybe most of them in a way. Music, for one, I feel like much more universal than, say, painting. Because I feel like, a lot of people like a good painting, but I think much more often than not, we all listen to the radio. We all listen to, well, that's an old fashioned sentence. We all are on Spotify or anything. I think everyone can say they like music of some kind.
Yeah.
And it hits us. It hits us in a way that nothing else can, I don't think. From if it's Taylor Swift
Yeah.
to classical music to the composers like Thomas Newman. Um, so that helps me, I think, get into my creative space. And I guess you already spoke to it a little bit. You were talking about when you get the opportunity to orchestrate things with different people, that's what really helps spark your creativity and helps you feel fulfilled more. Is there, when you're in your creative space, whether you're writing songs, whether you're thinking about a Sunday's schedule of events and how you're going to orchestrate things, is there another art form that you look to help with inspiration, to kind of get you into that zone, or even just a different kind of music? Are you listening to something?
Yeah. Yeah. I feel like I actually wrote down a couple things that like tend to inspire me. If you're familiar with like Tiny Desk concerts, if you've ever seen those, and NPR,
A little.
Tiny Desk, and anytime I watch one of those, I feel
Can you explain
sure.
for our audience?
Yeah. So NPR is National Public Radio. I think that's what it stands for. I don't know. 15 years ago, started one of the music producers. Man, no, I can't remember his name. I want to give him credit. It's forgotten. Anyway, you can look it up. He would bring, if they're in Washington, D.C., their headquarters are, and he would invite an artist to, like, at his desk, record 2 or 3 of their songs, very stripped down, one camera, one mic, to shine a light on that artist. Maybe it was someone up and coming, or maybe it was someone big, like Adele was one of the first people that he did, and that blew up because it strips away any of the production, and it's really a challenge for many artists, especially maybe who specialize in big production, because it's quite literally in front of an office desk. Now they've grown their I mean, it's like good mics and, 4 or 5 camera angles, so it sounds phenomenal and the quality is amazing, and now it has all the prestige that when people get on Tiny Desk, it's a big accomplishment and a really, really well done product. But what inspires me about that is it's forced authenticity, so it's, someone who sells out arenas is in front of a camera 10 feet away from you, and it's very vulnerable and it feels like a living room, which it kinda is, and so you see artists' personalities, I think, more than maybe you would in other contexts, and you also see them change their music style or you know, "How are we gonna make this work in a 15 by 15 square box? Like, we don't have a 45-foot stage to operate on. This is so restricted." And so it brings about new creative things, and that's another thing that I've been thinking about recently is, like, restraints and boxes are so helpful, and learning to befriend those and welcome those has helped my creative expression so much. It's like, whether that's, just a restraint on budget, like, I don't have the money to do this, or this, which maybe I would like to, but I just don't right now. So, well, how do I still get what I want done accomplished? Or personal skill, like, I can't play bebop jazz, but I really love the vibe of that. How can I accomplish the vibe of that in a different way? Or just resources. I don't have a organ or these instruments or whatever, but okay, but I still why should that stop me? Maybe it'll change along the way, it'll change the product. Or even time. Like, I don't have 17 hours a day to work on whatever, but that shouldn't be a all or nothing type thing. So, anyway, the Tiny Desk concerts are a great example, I think, of restriction breeding so much goodness and creativity. So those and honestly, I learned a lot of arranging techniques from them because it's more our Sunday morning experience is more like that, where it's just plug in a couple of guitars and instruments and just play. Like, we're not doing a lot of production at our church. And so there's some really just creative, like, "Oh, I loved how they did that, like, let me take a piece of that." So, which again, that is still music, but it is a different kind of avenue and a different form, but it does kind of awake my creative spark inside and gets the juices flowing, so to speak. And then I'm a huge YouTube fan. Like, I watch so much YouTube and, all the different types of creative channels like AG, like interior design videos, or like there's a fitness, not into fitness that much. Fashion, like, designer that I've been watching recently that just talks about putting together an outfit and like the intentionality behind that. And I wouldn't consider myself fashionista at all, but what's intriguing and inspiring to me is how he thinks about that and how he's creative and it's just there's this intention behind anything. I mean, there's cooking videos. I've recently watched The Bear and that was so inspiring. And I was like so inspired about cooking as an art form, the creativity there to like, you know, make a normal dish like soup and mac and cheese exquisite and gorgeous. Like, it's just the same building blocks, but how do you again, there's your restraint, there's your limit. Make soup and mac and cheese, but make it Michelin star quality. And so I think I'm inspired by anyone doing something really well and really digging in to why and how and the intention behind, how to make a jacket or how to make whatever. Like, I think seeing someone else be intensely intentional and intensely detailed about whatever it is, it could have something totally random to do or have nothing. It could be something totally random, have nothing to do with music or art or photography or anything, but just to see again, like we say, like what excites us is people coming alive. And so to see someone alive that is what's encouraging and that's what's inspiring. I've watched the most random YouTube videos about things I have no interest in, but that person loves it, and so that's what's inspiring. Some things that have been helpful to me to, again, help make myself come alive and to really follow creativity have been like to really practice. And I mean, like the common analogy, creativity is a muscle. Like, which I always used to hate that and be like, what does that even mean? But like I think it's true. Like you can't force it, but you do practice and plan for it and create space for it to flourish. And so like for me, some just really practical ways that I feel like, I'm working out, so to speak. My creativity is like making a playlist or cook a meal with what ingredients that you have at the house. Like, again, set limits for yourself and then figure out how to produce something. Like, and you'll be inspired or problem solving. I often view creativity as like just solving problems. I think that's part of why I didn't consider myself creative, because I was like, I'm not creating something out of nothing and making this super like, I don't know, heady esoteric thing. That's kind of what I thought creativity was. But it's just not. And I mean, that's not
What
what
would you say creativity is? Like if someone were to ask you what's your definition of creativity, wouldn't know, man. Or artistry. I think they're kind of all kind of in a way. What's your definition of creativity? Because I agree, but I want to see what you say.
I think back to the idea of being alive and being you. I think creativity is being your most full self. Like, I think we're all creative people, and I think we all put limits on ourselves, and maybe other people unfortunately put limits on us. But creativity is permission, I think. Again, Jacob Collier, one of my favorite artists, talks about just giving people permission to go to do. Like, he does these huge audience choirs where he's in a room of 500 people and he gives no instruction. He just says, sing this to the crowd of 3,000 people. And then he tells this section, sing this. And then he moves his hands up or down and they follow. And it's beautiful. And obviously lots of his audience are musicians. So there is maybe some, they come in there with some skill, but lots of people aren't. And I think creativity is permission to use your mind and your brain and your heart to create. I mean, which I don't, you can't,
To do things.
to do things. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree.
And now that I feel like I don't know, having this awakening, so to speak, I feel like I want other people to, I want to talk to me 5 years ago and be like, dude, you are creative because you're a human. You may not be an artist. Okay. But you're creative.
Well,
Yeah. Like, or what, you may not be putting out records and touring.
no, I know, but just what you said, you may not be an artist, but you're creative. So then that begs the question, well, when is the point where you become an artist?
Sure. Okay. Well, maybe artist by definition of your living is based on that.
Okay.
But even that, I don't even know if that's a good definition of an art. Because
Yeah.
it's like, well, then there's a whole lot less artists than we think. And then do you only say you're an artist if you're making a living off of it? I think you're right to agree with you. Like, being an artist and being creative, I think, are not career labels, though they are, or at least artist is a career label. They're also qualities of humanity, and we should see them as such.
I think artist is a label that we can give ourselves. But maybe I'm just discovering this now, but I don't know if there really is per se, because like you say, I think everyone has a creativity. Like my father's a doctor, but there's creativity in that. Like, or there has to be, like, where he knows something's wrong with someone. He has this basis of knowledge and experience, so he has to then jump off that diving board and say, well, then let's try this, or let's do this. Just like a chef might be like, I have this, and this to create a meal. Well, I know this does this and this does that, so let's try this. And it's just, I think that's the human experience. But I just, like, I think everyone is creative to a point, whether you're a mechanic or because you're problem solving. Maybe that's what art is in a way. Like, maybe it's not so much a quote unquote problem, but it's like, I want to put this up on the canvas. How do I do that?
Yeah.
So I'm figuring it out.
It's telling a story with intention.
Like, that intention that you're talking about, you talked about this before. It just delights you to see someone who is so focused and doing things intentionally and creating something. For me, drawing. Okay, so let's take it. I don't know if this is the same thing that we're talking about, but I've heard it said like there was an art teacher. It's probably someone famous, and I'm butchering this. I think he's Japanese, maybe, or something. But he said, his philosophy is just, you should not put the pen to the paper unless, like, you should not draw the line until you know exactly where that line's going to be.
Wow.
And so that, of course, takes a lot of technical skill and a lot of, experience and practice. But I don't agree with it, really.
Yeah.
I don't. Well, and maybe that's just me, and maybe I'm being lazy. I don't know. But the way my style is, I'm very, very much more emotional with the way that I approach the canvas. Is I just take either whether I started off with drawing or with painting, and I take broad brush strokes, and I'm all over the place. And I'm trying to figure it out as I go. Like it's very scribble, and I probably look somewhat like a madman in some ways. And then from there, you figure out your composition. You figure out where you want things to go. So I don't know. I don't know. What do you think? Do you think the majority of people would say that whether it's music, whether it's art, visual art, that you have to have those very much developed skills that you've practiced and practiced and practiced, and only then can you really create something of worth? Or
Well, I think then you get into the question, well, who's defining worth? And then if you're looking for those people's approval,
you're never gonna have
and you're probably never gonna have it. It's probably not gonna be fulfilling when you do get it.
Yeah. And that's, I think, harkens back to what we were talking about. If young people are constantly, or they're thinking about the end goal, they're thinking about, well, I want to be the next Taylor Swift, so I need to do this, this, and this, and this. No, let Taylor Swift be Taylor Swift. None of us will ever be Taylor Swift. Not that I'm saying that she's the greatest in the world, and none of us will ever compare to her. What I'm saying is she's her.
Right.
You're you.
Exactly.
No one will ever be you. No one will ever be as you are.
That's so good. Yeah.
So why don't you focus on being you?
Yeah.
And then guess what? The attention will follow, maybe. And maybe not. But the point is that you need to be okay with who are you?
Yeah.
And it's only then that I think you'll have that freedom too. That freedom and that creative space to play. And that's when you'll do, I think, some of your best work. By all means, go and develop those technical skills. Take lessons. Do the practice. Do hours of work if you can. But at the end of the day, don't get down on yourself because you're not as good as blank.
Oh, I guess the only other thing I would say is invite people into your ideas, because they may be the catalyst you need to help make it happen. Like, don't create in isolation, or maybe create in isolation, but then shortly after bring people into it. Even if that's just sharing, hey, I'm working on this, just wanted to, I just want to tell you about it. Like, even if you're not inviting any feedback.
That's hard.
Definitely. It is.
It's hard, especially I think so I consider musicians and performing artists to be more social and maybe extroverted in the way that they produce their art, which maybe they are or they aren't. But of course, people like on the canvas and stuff like that with the visual arts, we're able to be a little bit more isolationist. So I think it's easy to be like, oh, I don't care what anyone thinks about me. I'm just going to create in my little space and I'm just going to do that. But if you open yourself up, and it's going to sting at times, get people's opinion, good or bad, you don't have to care what they say necessarily. You can take or leave what they say, but what they say might influence you in a certain direction that will make it all that much better. Yeah, and I think you have to, because your brain only works a certain way. And if you ever want to expand and become better, I think you need that input from outside sources to
Yeah.
expand your world.
Yeah. Definitely. And they obviously need to be trusted and safe and kind. Like,
Sure.
and that's where just having good relationships in your life has so many benefits, even outside of relating to creativity. But yeah, man, I mean, even just the number of times where I've just sent a half piece of a song to someone and they've just been like, oh my gosh, that's like encouraged me. Like,
Yeah.
then there's all of a sudden, oh, my work had some positive impacts. Well, I want to keep doing that, or that was fun to you. Like, wow, I brought some joy into this world. Like, what about this did you like? So I can keep, or on the other hand, if you send something and like it gets no response, then there's maybe okay, well that's input. Maybe that thing didn't resonate. Noted.
Yeah. Do you think that's ever a trap that you fall into too, where you have something that works, you have a piece that works. Like in my case, I have a painting that worked. A lot of people have responded to positively, that maybe even someone bought. And so then I'm like, how do I replicate that? Or how do I keep doing it? Which I don't think is necessarily healthy.
Hmm.
Like again, I think that should speak to your creative self and your world, so to speak. Keep coming back to that word, to your world, and that's going to affect the type of work that you produce. But I don't think, just like you don't want to mimic someone else on Instagram or something like, oh, I have to be like them. You also don't have to be like you were a year ago, or like you were just now when you created that work. That's limiting yourself.
Yeah. Yeah. I do think you could replicate or maybe borrow. Yeah, identify what did connect with people. What was and how do I keep that in my next piece? And again, if it's true to you, if that thing is still something relevant in your life and you just like are, the garden is still producing flowers, like you don't have to pull all the old ones out because it has to be new every time.
Mm-hmm.
No, I think if you're just like endlessly chasing, well, that got the hit one time, I'm just going to keep replicating that and squeeze all the life out of that. That feels less genuine. That feels less personal. That feels more transactional. So I think, yeah, depending on the circumstance.
No, I guess that's true. No, you're right. The key is to just let yourself create, keeping in mind those things that did work and those things that didn't. And we're constantly learning and building on that. Yeah. You touched on this, and I love it. What creating is the spiritual experience. Can you expound a little bit on that? Because I agree. I feel like when I'm in the zone, when I'm creating at the canvas or whatever, I feel, on the one hand, I could say I feel like somewhat of my truest self, as well as, a very closest to God too. Like he speaks to me during that time a lot. So I don't know. Do you have that same experience or?
Yeah, I do. I think, I mean, we were all created, like, we didn't create ourselves. Something else made us. And I believe that something else is God. From nothing, he formed us. That's what the Bible says. And so I think, though we are actually forming from nothing, we have the paint or the musical notes or even the ideas, like we didn't really generate within ourselves, but we are to a lesser extent creating something that doesn't currently exist.
Right.
Um, and so even just relating, that experience as, well, that's what happened to me. That's how I came to be. It's because something else saw fit for me to exist
Mm.
and called it good.
Mm.
And so when I am see fit for this painting to exist or this song to exist because I think it's good and I think it needs to exist, we are co-creating, with God. And that's just a really beautiful, profound thing. And yeah, sure, there's toil in that too. We're not perfect. And so even the Bible says like because of sin, like our work will be toil. And so um but even that, like the you know, chipping away and the honing and I don't remember who this quote comes from, but it's like the idea of the sculpture, like carving away everything that's not the person, which is like seems ridiculous, but is like really helpful, I think, as an analogy. Um, we can even relate that to our own like spiritual transformation of God is cutting away the things that aren't beautiful to make it more beautiful because he loves us and he's kind to do that. And so when we are, you know, adjusting the shading of a corner of the painting or tweaking the bass line or the drum part, it's because we have the ability to see something more beautiful and then to realize it, which is what God does in us. And so,
Isn't that so interesting too when you think about it, that we have the ability to see what's beautiful?
yeah, it's crazy.
Isn't that weird in a way?
Yeah.
Because first of all, beauty is kind of subjective.
Yeah.
But in a way, it's not. I don't know. Just as you were saying that, it just struck me like that's pretty crazy that we can even, I don't know, see beauty. That everything's just not all right. Shades of gray in a way. Like it's
I think that's part of being human. I mean, like that's why humans are made in the image of God and not deer or whales. Like that's what separates us from other living creatures I think part of what separates is that comes from the soul, like the ability to see beauty and create it. And therefore, then the opposite way, see things that aren't beautiful, evil. Like I think that comes from being a being with a soul.
no matter who you are, like no matter what your political views or your religious views, I think there's, whether you want to call them rights and wrongs, beauty or ugly, or good things and bad things, like it's all over the place. We all make these judgments, and for better or for worse. But the fact that we're even doing that, in a way, is even creative.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Anyway, pontificating for a moment.
So good. Like got deep in there. I love it.
Where do you want to go from here? Where would you love to go?
Well, I have a idea in the works for something here at church. We have the church's 15-year um, anniversary, and I really want to do something special for that, musically speaking. And the idea is to film a video of our worship team or some members of our worship team um, singing a song live in our front lobby because it's very reverberant and beautiful. Um, and we have some dancers that go to our church, and I would love to bring one of them into that project and like have what I want to do is a one take video of the song and then like an instrumental section with a dancer. The song is that I want to do is talking about beholding the beauty of God and the fullness of Him, and really like looking at a beautiful art piece, just sit and stare at it and let it wash over you and transform your heart and move you to something. And I think God is the most full, perfect version of that, and everything else is from that place. But we'd never produced a video. I mean, I was fortunate enough to be able to record a song a couple of years ago with the church, and I would love to do more of that, both here in church and personally. But what I want to hear from here is to produce more content and be a part of producing more content. Like I would love for us, actually, I think I've thrown the idea out to you, but like to have a creative showcase here at the church to invite people like you're doing to share their creative avenues. And specifically, again, because this is my context and what I believe God has called me into, I want people to showcase their art to the extent and for the glory of like God and showing some aspect of him depicted in art or a poem or, a knitted thing that is about creation or something. I don't know. I heard a podcast one time by this Japanese artist named Makoto Fujimura. I don't know if you heard him, but he talks about being co-creators with God, like, and when we create and making is a spiritual practice. And I believe that, and I've seen that in my own life, and I want to invite more people into that. So I want to create spaces for that to happen and that to flourish. Again, give people permission, I was talking about earlier, and see what could come from that. So, I mean, that's an immediate thing that I want to do in the next year. And then maybe that is a foundation or scaffolding, if you will, for more content and art, both personally and associated with other people and even not related to me, but just building a framework for that to be normal, accepted, championed. And I'm a fan of it, and the world needs it. The world needs you to come alive in your avenue, and we're just trying to put a spotlight on it. So I think that's where I want to go from here.
Is there anything that you want to plug, like of what you're doing, of what?
Honestly, no, I don't. I mean, if you live in Jackson, come to our church.
What's the church name?
Grace City Church in Jackson, Mississippi. I don't have any music. If you want to listen, there's a song that I wrote with our former pastor and was recorded. The only official credit to my name. It's called Worth Waiting For, and the artist's name is Grace City Worship. I wrote that almost 3 years ago now.
And where can they find it?
On Spotify, Apple Music, YouTube, Grace City Worship. The song is Worth Waiting For. Really proud of it still. It holds up, I think, and would love to do more of that type of thing.
Do you want people to find you on Instagram or anything?
Yeah, I'm not super active on social media, but if you want to follow me, it's my Instagram handle and my YouTube. I have like one piano tutorial video. It's E.B. Bergeron for both of them. The E, B, and then Bergeron. My middle name is Bentley, so that's what the second B stands for.
And how to spell your last name?
Bergeron.
It's French, as you were telling me earlier.
Is there all?
Okay.
I will say, if I could plug, what should you listen to?
Okay, yeah,
No, yeah,
a good thing. Yeah.
yeah. What should you listen to? How arrogant of me to say. Something that I really enjoy and I would commend and want to share is, I mentioned earlier, but Jacob Collier is my favorite artist. Multi-instrumentalist producer from London. He has albums that sound like folk tunes and then a whole album that's R&B and covers so much of a spectrum. And he is really into creating audience choirs. So if any of his videos on YouTube, he's made just at his concerts a voice of, a choir of 10,000 people just have to move his fingers. And it's really remarkable what he's doing, I think, in music as a art form. And I think he's really doing things that people have never seen before and talking about things in ways that people have never talked before. And it's just really encouraging. And
Yeah.
his Tiny Desk, he has two. They're both phenomenal. So I would encourage.
Say his name again. I'm sorry.
Jacob Collier, Collier.
Okay.
Quirky dude, but a brilliant musician.
Yeah. I love that. Big fan. Well, thanks.
Yeah, of course.
I appreciate it.
Glad to be on.
Do you want to play something?
Sure, I can.
I caught that, so if nothing else, that's cool. About like my tag on at the beginning or the end.
Yeah.
Give me a sec. Let me get a little bit closer just in case. This way. Yeah. Okay, so is that an Evan original?
I made that up right now.
Oh, really? Okay. Yeah, you're not talented at all.
Jeez Louise. Oh, for the Love of Art with Sam Bishop. Produced by Sam Bishop. Theme music and incidental music by Arc Music. To find out more, go to sambishopworks.com. If you like what you heard today, please like and subscribe and share us. Thank you for joining us.